Hello there, Shalon Day here with Bible Journaling Ministries, and today I'm going to be using some floral stamps to create a beautiful background along with some colored pencils to color in those stamps, an acrylic block to hold my stamp, and my ink pad, as well as 3-page kit for Psalm 23 verses 5 and 6 entitled "The Lord is My Shepherd." So if you are ready, let's get started. Let's begin by looking at this beautiful 3-page kit for Psalm 23 verses 5 and 6, and it is entitled "The Lord is My Shepherd." This is included this month in your bonus files through your Momentum subscription or available in our shop at BibleJournalingMinistries.com/shop. So this first page has all of these vintage looking, like a camera with flowers, a bottle with a flower and a tag, these vintage stamps, floral stamps, bird houses, has your word fetty that says, "My cup runs over, anointed I will dwell." It has your verse that says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in Yahweh's house forever." And that is the World English Bible Version. It also has 4 different washi tapes for you to utilize, your crosses and your hearts. Second page has the Faith Dex cards, as well as some more elements, a doorway with flowers and a clock, a bicycle, and then another butterfly. Your flags, more crosses, and some washi tape. Your third page has some larger elements, the larger doorway, clock, vintage stamps, crosses, a butterfly, and your larger word fetty. Now I am also going to be using my Illustrated Faith basic black stamping ink pad, my acrylic block, and I haven't quite decided yet, but I pulled several stamp sets that I had in my stash. I've got this one that is from Encourage, Sandra Boehm, and it has some words and some flowers. I also have this one that is from a company called Scrappy Cat, and just from some different flowers. It has some other words on here, but I was mainly looking at the flowers. And then this from Tim Holtz. It's just a vintage looking set of clear stamps. What I really wanted to use was this particular old wording, but it says love, and it has the definition all typed out. It's very small, but I think I want to use that in my journaling. Now, as I was preparing for this video, I was very thankful when I was looking at my scripture in my Bible that my Bible has, it has the 2-inch margins, but in this particular page, it's got a lot more room. So I'm so excited about that. But I wanted to show you how you could use stamps to create a background. And also, I loved these flowers because they are very similar to the flowers that are in the kit. And so I want to show you how you can use stamps and colored pencils just to color these in and add. Maybe you really like the flower, but you don't really like the stamp or something like that, or you just wanted to add to it. So I'm going to show you how to use your stamps to create a background and to color those in using the color palette from the kit and just colored pencils to create a background. And then we will work on utilizing our beautiful kit. I did print mine on sticker paper and pre-cut it. I'm going to start out first. Now, I know our verses are just the number 5 and 6 of Psalm 23, but I love this psalm. And so I am going to highlight or make stand out in some way. I may even use stamps for this. I'm going to do the whole chapter. It's not very long, but I'm going to go ahead and highlight my 2 focus verses at least using my zebra mild liner. And I think I'm actually going to use the other end, the finer end, and just come through. 2 of my favorite verses throughout the whole love letter of the Bible are these 2 verses. But I also want to, so I'm just going to underline, well, box in this whole chapter reference. And then box around all of the other verses in the chapter. And even though I highlighted these, I'm still going to box it. And I'm being very light-handed because this is a darker highlighter from the mild liners. And I don't want it to bleed really bad on the backside. So I am being as light-handed as I can with my highlighter. Let's see if it bled through on the backside. It did a little heavier ghosting, but nothing that I can't live with or cover up on the backside. So that's how I'm going to start out with my journaling, is just to so I'm going to start. I definitely want to use this love stamp. Even though it's so tiny, I can't read it. But that's okay. So I'm just going to take my acrylic block, and I'm doing this sideways because it's just not long enough. I could grab another acrylic block. I have a little square one that it would width-wise would fit better, but I'm here and I have this here beside me, so it's just what I'm using. Anyway, so I've got that down. Again, I take my ink pad and I ink my stamp rather than using my stamp on the ink pad. Only because I feel like I have a little more control. And I try not to get it on my acrylic block. I have done that before. And then it makes a mess on my page. So I'm gently but firmly, if that makes sense, inking my stamp with my pad. I don't want to be too heavy though, because I don't want it to blur. And I may have gotten too heavy at the top, but that's okay. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to put this in where I have a lot more room or a lot more space here. I'm going to try to be as gentle and precise as I can. So it was a little light in the middle. That's okay. I'm not worried about it. Again, this is just my background. And then I'm going to put my elements either over some or... Now, if you wanted to use colored ink, you could do that as well. Or I have used distress inks before on my stamps. That's fine too. It's your journaling. It's your time with the Lord, so you do what works best for you. So I got that cleaned off pretty well. And then okay, so I'm just going to set this set aside for now because I may come back and do some of these flourishes. I don't know yet. I am going to use my flowers and my colored pencils. I don't know. These are several years old. Again, I'm just now coming into kind of utilizing stamps in my journaling. So I've had some of these things for a long time and just never had the courage to step out and use them. So I'll put this sideways again because it was not wide enough. So you can kind of play with it on your block if you don't have one that's wide enough and get it on there like that. And if you have, like I said, if you have different colors of ink, use those if that's what you want. I just like the simplicity of the black, especially when I'm going to color this in. Being careful not to get it on the edge of my block. And then so you can manipulate your block to wherever you want to put your stamp. I also like the clear acrylic blocks because you can see through them if you don't want to cover your scripture. Okay, let me clean this one off. And I just use a baby wipe to clean off my stamps. You could stamp a scrap piece of paper, or maybe if you've used a gel plate or something like that to, to clean off your gel plate, you could use the ink that's left on your stamps and stamp that scrap piece of paper if you wanted to. I'll pick that up. I wanted to use this other stamp. Okay, it's on there. Now I am going to take a scrap piece of paper and put it under the edge of my page here, because I want to take this stamp like it's coming off of the page. So I've got this scrap piece of paper under here to simply catch the other ink. Trying to decide where I want it. There we go. Now, I could come all the way down and do that again on the bottom, but it did catch the other ink there. So this is what I was saying. To clean off your stamp, take you a scrap piece of paper and just stamp, stamp, stamp to get your ink off. Or, like I do, wipe it off with a baby wipe. Whichever way works best for you. And like I said, I'm just doing a background. I don't want to cover the whole page because I know that I want to use some of these beautiful elements from the kit. So I've just used a couple of, well, 3 different stamps for my background. Let me look at this kit again and see some of these flowers. I don't really want to use these because they're more kind of doodly flowers. So I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna utilize the one that I just had again. So I'll put my piece of paper under there again just to catch my ink, but I want to do this kind of same thing again in this corner. Just a gentle rocking back and forth with enough pressure to make an imprint. And then I'm just going to ink again, because I want to use it again. But this time I'm going to use the whole thing. I'm trying to decide if I want to turn it a different way. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to use this one again. way to utilize stamps in your journaling entries. Whether for background, maybe you say, I'm not very artistic, I can't draw. Utilize stamps and create your own entry using those stamps. Especially if they're large enough that you can color them in. Now, my ink is it's a pigment ink, and so I am going to stay away from using like a watercolor because it will just reactivate the ink and then it'll make a mess on my page. So I'm not going to do that. I am going to go ahead and get my colored pencils and choose the colors that I'm going to use in my flowers here to color those in. And what I'm going to use as my inspiration would be these flowers on the vintage stamps. So a lot of the pinks and the mauves and the darker greens in my coloring. So I'm going to speed up the video so you don't have to watch me color all of these in, and then I'll come back and we will add our elements to our page. So I have finished coloring my stamped flowers, and I used a whole lot of colored pencils because I was trying to build all of my color, and I took my inspiration for what I colored from my little vintage stamps here. So this is what I'm going to be using for my background for using my elements. And I know I used some of the, I did this and now I'm going to cover it up some with stuff, but that's okay. That is all right. So let's start with my tab. Actually, I'm going to have to trim some of this. I don't know why this got so wonky. Not sure. It's probably an operator error. But that's okay. I can fix it. So again, use your, if you have stamps If you find stamps on sale and think, ooh, I could use this, I mean, you can find a lot of stamps that are very versatile that you could use for many different things. I have even used stamps with just a little bit of acrylic paint to stamp things on. You can use stamps if you use a gel plate to create a pretty mixed media entry like that, using those. I have done that as well. Or if you use your gel plate and then you want to, when you put the paint down and then you use a stamp over it, I've done that as well. And as you can tell, a little bit of ghosting with my stamps on the other side. Nothing horrible, nothing that I can't live with. I think this is such a pretty kit. I love the colors and the vintage. The vintage camera and the vintage perfume bottles and of course the butterflies. I love all the butterflies. I think I want to use the big butterfly. And I'm going to use my word fetty after I trim it down. Across the top here. Well, this part of it anyway. My cup runs over, and then I will use the word anointed in another place on my page. I didn't get it straight. I never do. So I'm going to use, I think I'm going to actually use the larger word fetty, word of anointed. That word is very special to me. And I fully believe that we are all anointed for a purpose. And I love that this verse says, you, speaking of Yahweh, you anoint my head with oil. I have such a beautiful picture in my mind of that. Kind of goes along with, I just did that one again. I didn't mean to. It kind of goes along with when it says the Lord will rejoice over you with singing. That picture in my head, I love it. So that this says you anoint my head with oil, that has special meaning to me. I will dwell. I did that one straight, but that's because it was all one piece. I'm going to put this one a little crooked on my page, but I'm going to cut off the top. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to leave it, and then I will just add powder to the back of it to take the sticky off. And I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. Actually, yes. Okay. So I'm going to use my scrap piece of paper again. Just to put a little bit of powder on that. And then I'm just going to take my finger now my Bible will smell like baby powder. I love that smell. And no more sticky on the back. Now what I used, this was a volumizing powder that I used for my hair, and it was empty. So I just popped the top off of it, added my baby powder, and then put washi tape around it so that I know it's to be used with my journaling. So use what you have and kind of be a little creative with what you've got on hand. And now I have this beautiful entry with the stamps that I used as my sort of my background, and I think it just adds to the page. And of course I added my vintage love definition to the page as well, because I really like that stamp. So as you can see, I just used my floral stamps. I used my coloring pencils to color in my stamps. You do not have to be able to draw to do this. Use your stamps, use your colored pencils. It's like having a coloring page that you've created. But we have completed our entry for Psalm 23, 5, and 6, for the whole chapter like I did. But I thank you for joining me today with this technique using stamps to create our background. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, click that subscribe button, invite your friends. Come join us over in the Facebook beginners group. We love to have you over there and see all of your entries. So until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye.